Hey everybody, Mark Bates here. Today I want to show you how to write a Buffalo plugin using the Buffalo Plugins plugin. It's all very meta, I know. We're going to be using version 1.4.1 of Buffalo plugins. If you're following along, that is the version I'm using here. You can do a go get to get it here. So in my console here, I'm going to show you really quick what the Buffalo Generate plugin looks like here. Oops. Buffalo, my bad. Buffalo Generate plugin. Here we go. So you see there is a nice command there to generate a Buffalo plugin for us. In this case, it kind of shows us what it looks like, a bunch of the helpers, a bunch of the flags rather. They all look pretty good. The defaults are going to work for the most part for us here. So let's do Buffalo Generate plugin. github.com/gobuffalo/buffalo-docker. So all Buffalo plugins have to be named Buffalo-something. So in this case, we're going to write a Docker plugin. And this will eventually replace the built-in Docker generator in Buffalo. And what we're going to do is we're going to migrate the generator out of Buffalo and into this plugin here and show you how it's done. And at the same point, move Go Buffalo forward. So I want to create my Buffalo Docker plugin, and this is going to, for right now, it's going to have a generator. That's what the withgen flag is. That will generate the Docker files for us. -F means force, so it'll delete the directory if it already exists here. Eventually, this plugin might do other things like create Docker Compose files, start Docker, stop Docker, that sort of thing. This tutorial, we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to make the generator, and that's kind of where we're going to leave it for today. So again, I've got the force flag, the withgen flag. I'm just going to throw one more flag here, which is the -D flag. And that is a dry run flag. And as you can see, it spits out all the files it's going to generate, as well as any potential commands it's going to run, like a cd, for example. Here, go mod tidy, because I'm using go mods, go metalinter install, etc. So that's a great way to see what you're going to get when you run this command. So with that said, I'm going to run it here. And it's going to do its thing and create a new Buffalo plugin for me called github.com/gobuffalo/buffalo-docker. And once we finish that, we can go into that folder here, and we can list out all the files that we have, and you can see we have a complete project now. Now I'm going to install this project here, this new plugin rather. So there we go, and I'm going to open up my trusty Coke app, and I'm going to say Buffalo plugins list, and we're going to see what plugins are available to us. And there is the Docker plugin. So we're doing good. I'm very excited. We can see it. It is available to us. And if we do a Buffalo Generate help here, we can see, though, we do have a problem. We've got the plugin is conflicting with the built-in Docker generator. So we are going to have to fix that. That's something to keep in mind as we do. But first, let's review our project that was generated for us, our plugin. We do use Cobra for our CLIs because I really love it. I think it's great. And so that's what we've generated for you here. Obviously, we got some Go mod stuff if you're using mods. License file by default is MIT, but that can be changed. Our main.go, pretty simple. The make file here is set up to use the github.com/gobuffalo/release project. Which makes it super easy for you to build, run, install, test your plugins and stuff, as well as release them. So love that a lot. There is a file that does need changing here, which is our Go releaser file. Because we have a binary, the Buffalo plugin will generate a Go releaser file for us, which makes it easier for us to release our nice binaries to GitHub as well as Homebrew. Now, by default, it's my system user For Homebrew, we just want to change that to Go Buffalo. So this way, when we release this plugin, this will end up in our Homebrew tab for people to install that way. So that's the only real change we need there. Obviously, there's a README that you should absolutely update and do something with. Finally, next there is the command directory. Here we have our available. And what this does, this is relatively new in Buffalo plugins. Again, we're using Buffalo plugins 1.4 here. And as you can see, we've got this new plugins command, new available. And what we're going to do is off of that, we're just going to mount different, we're going to add different commands from our plugin to Buffalo. And this manages all of that for you. Before you had to manage your own available subcommand, you had to manage the JSON and all that sort of stuff for you. This significantly cleans that up a little bit here. So what I end up with here is on Buffalo root, I end up with my Docker subcommand, which I can then hang other things off of like start or stop. I have a listener, which we will talk about in a little bit. And then I have my generate command. So this will wrap Buffalo's generator with the generate command from this command here. And then finally, we want to mount all of our commands to our root. And once we do that, that's it. Buffalo knows how to deal with available plugins for this. So you don't need to change it very much. This is that Docker subcommand, like I said, that we can use for maybe creating start and stop commands, other type subcommands. We're not going to do anything with it right now, though. Generate, this is our generator, and we're going to get back to this because we're going to work in this in a little bit here. Our root is very simple, and our version is a very simple version command that spits out the version file that is kept inside the Docker package. Now, the idea here is that everything from your command should call out of your command into either the Docker package or the Jenny packages that were created for you. Jenny is the generator framework for that's part of the Go Buffalo project, and we're going to talk about that as well while we build our generator here. So now that we have a basic understanding of the layout of what was created for us, and how we can add more commands to the available should we need them, let's actually start working on our generator here. And let's see what was generated for us. You can see we have some generate options here, and they also contain Docker options here, pointer for Docker options. And our generate command here, you can see we have a Jenny wet runner. Now, the way Jenny works is it has different runners. And a wet runner is a runner that is going to write files to disk, execute commands, make HTTP requests, that sort of thing. Now, of course, you can configure your own runners. Wet runner is just kind of generic wet runner. If the dry run flag is passed in, we're going to switch to a dry runner. A dry runner, or the dry runner for Jenny that gets returned here, will not call any of those commands, will not write any files to disk, and will not make any HTTP requests, for example. Instead, it'll kind of print all that information onto the screen. It'll show you what commands it was going to run. It'll also show you the contents of the files that would be created. We saw that earlier when we generated the plugin. So next we come to docker.new, which takes some options, and we're going to dig into that in just 1 second. And then we also have fumpter. We're adding a go fumpter to our runner, and then we are going to run all of our generators here. And that's what runners do. A Jenny runner takes a bunch of generators and then runs them. So docker.new is going to return a generator for us, and so is in go fumpt. But we're really more interested in the Docker new one here. So let's go and look at that. And this is that file here. This is what we have. It takes some options. It sets up a new generator. It validates those options for us. In this case, it's going to load up any templates that are in this folder here. And it's going to add those to the generator. Now, all of those will automatically get created for you when the generator runs. So in this case, example.txt will be created for us. And we're also going to set up a plush transformer to run that example through, run those files through should we want them to. And now let's look at finally look at our options here. Our options are currently empty, and so isn't our validator. So that's what we have right now. So let's turn to the Buffalo project itself and see what's going on there and figure out what we need to do to port it over. Okay, so it looks like inside of the Buffalo generator and the main project, there are two different generators. There's a multi-generator, which generates a multi-stage Docker file, and a standard generator. So we're going to need to figure out a way of managing that within our project as well. You can see they've got different templates here, although the .docker ignore template is the exact same template. So that's something, and perhaps an optimization we can make. Let's also look at what options it takes. Now, one of the problems with what's currently in the Buffalo project in terms of generators, and one of the reasons we're trying to fix it, is things are terribly well named and aren't particularly laid out well. So we're trying to move everything to these new generator, Jenny, and make things a lot nicer and easier to figure out here. But it does look like we do need some information. So let's copy that over, and we're going to put that right there into our options of our Docker project. And we can see that there's definitely a few things we want to maybe make sure that we've got here. So first things first, let's check if the options app equals an empty app. Well, let's fix that. That's something easy we can fix here. Now let's check the version here. So we'll say if the length of ops.version equals 0, let's set that to the runtime version of Buffalo. And that's the wrong runtime version, so let's just change that. Fantastic. And we'll do a similar check for ops style equals 0. Then we'll set the style equal to multi. There we go. And now, one last check here to make sure that our style is what we expect it to be. We'll say ops style, and we'll say multi, and there we go, and standard, and we'll set it if it's not either of those, we're going to return errors, error F, unknown style option. There you go, ops dot style. And let's make sure, let's actually set up our tests here so that our validation tests are failing, which makes sense. That should error out. So let's say, actually no, all those should be good. We can set it to an invalid one here. We can say style foo, like that, and then we can say ops style equals multi. There we go. I'm just going to clean up those to-dos. And that test passes. Okay, so now we have set up all of the options for our generator to match the ones that Buffalo was previously using. Okay, so let's check out the generate Docker subcommand real quick here for any flags. And it does have a flag, so let's make sure we support that flag here. I'm just gonna say yank like that. And let's go back to our Buffalo Docker command. We'll say cmd generate. And we're gonna add, there we go, to the generate command. And instead of that, we're gonna say the generate options. Fantastic. Okay, so now we've added that same flag to our actual generator. So We're doing good so far. Okay, so now we know we have some templates that need to be dealt with here. So let's just copy those from the Buffalo project here. Please excuse my screen flow as I'm working here. So, and let's open up this one here. Okay. So inside the Buffalo project, I'm going to go into our generators folder and go into Docker, and I'm going to grab these two multi and standard folders, and we're going to go to Buffalo Docker Jenny Docker, and I'm going to drop these two folders in here. And I'm going to copy the .docker one to the regular templates. Oops. Okay, so we've got a bunch of templates now. These are our standard. We're going to actually just move that out, copy that up there. Right, so we're just all I'm doing here is just cleaning up my folder structure a little bit, and from what Buffalo gave us originally here, we're going to delete that folder here, and we're going to move multi and standard under templates, and under templates we're going to create one called common, and I'm going to move the .docker ignore in there. Okay, so now we have three folders. We have common, we have multi, and we have standard. So let's go back to Docker, go back to our Buffalo Docker project here. And we're going to go back to our Docker generator here. So this bit here, we're going to change, and we're going to change because what we're going to do is we're going to continue to use Go templating because that's just something I don't want to deal with converting right now. So to do that, what we need to do is get a new template transformer from Jenny. There's a package called Go Tools that will give us that. And it's going to need two things. It's going to need data, and it's going to need helpers. And the data we're just going to say is just going to be a map of string interface. Oops. Here. It's usually the easiest thing to do. And we'll say ops. And ops is going to be our options. And our helpers is going to be template funcs. Here we go. And, oops, template func maps, sorry. Template func map. There we go. Okay, and that's not HTML, it's text. But that's okay, Go import, you're doing all right. Now what we need to do is we can add that transformer to our generator. So what's going to happen now is when our generator gets run, it's going to run any file that ends in .tmpl temple through our Go tool, through our Go template transformer. So we're doing all right here. Problem is we don't actually have any templates yet here, and that's okay. We need to figure out which templates we want. So we're going to say if we'll actually set up a very similar switch statement to what we had in our testing here. We're going to say if it's multi, right? And we're going to say if it's standard. There we go. And all we're going to do is we're just going to add some different boxes here. So first let's add our common packer box. Oops, that's new box. And we'd say Docker templates common. And so that's going to ensure that all of the common templates are generated. And then basically we want to do the same thing, except instead of common, matter of fact, we can even make that a lot easier. We don't need the switch statement at all. We could probably say plus ops.multi. Oops, no, actually, let's continue to do this here. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now we've got our generator set up so that it picks the correct box based off of the style given to it. So we're going to have some common templates. We're going to have the multi, and we're going to have the standard templates as well. So let's now turn to our tests. We had a default test set up for us here. I've tweaked it just a little bit because I'm expecting 2 files to be generated and not the example txt file. I'm expecting the first file to be the .docker ignore file and the second file to be the docker file. So let's run this here. And it fails, and it's because we're still getting dash dot dash instead of dot. And so there's a couple reasons for that here. First, oops, that is the Buffalo project, not the Buffalo Docker project. We can see there's our .docker ignore file. And the reason we're still getting that is because that's still dash dot dash is the name of the file. But that's not what we want it to be. We want it to be a dot. So we can add another transformer to our generator here, and this is the Jenny dot transformer, and all it does is it renames a file from dash dot dash to dot whatever, and we do that because obviously it's hard to see dot files in your code, so your templates, it's easier to see them if they're not dot files. So now that we've done that, let's run our tests again. Okay, so we are getting 2 files that we expect them to be here. Now I'm going to check out here my multi file. Let's take a look at this here. And I'm going to say it should contain that text, right? r.contains f.string. There we go. Jenny files, the string gives you back the entire contents of the file, so we can check to make sure that that file does in fact contain multi-stage. Now I'm going to write the test again, but this time with standard instead. And I'm going to say style is standard, like such. And let's see what happens this time. Our test should fail. And it does, because it does not contain what we need here. And so we can change our test to not contains. And now our test should pass. So there we go. Our tests all pass. I'm going to install here. We still haven't fixed one problem. Do you remember earlier I said that our Docker command was conflicting with the one in Buffalo? So we do need to fix that here. And one of the ways we can do that is just by the use of an alias here. So I'm going to add some alias. I'm going to add an alias. Oops. Change inside that to Docker X. Now that alias won't show up when we kind of list our plugins, but we know that it's there so we can use it. So let's just install that again. Oops. Here we go. Make install. And we're going to open up our trusty Coke app. I'm going to remove the Docker file. I'm going to remove the .docker ignore file. And now let's see. First the -h on that. Okay, so that looks pretty good so far. What about the dry run? What do we get? And if you see, we got the dry run. You can see the .docker ignore as well as a Docker file here. I'm going to go and run that. Oop, no -f flagged, my bad. And that should create a new Docker file for us here, right? And it looks like it did, and it looks like everything is in there the way we would expect it to be in there. We can see that we've got the Coke and everything set up as we expect it to be. Now, if this was, we can remove those files here. I'll remove that Docker file here. You know, and if we were to, let's say, make this a dep project, I'm I can do that just by touching it here. We can generate the docx again, and if we look at it now, we should see that it is a dep file, which it is. So our templates are working as they did before, which is fantastic. This is exactly what we were kind of expecting this to be. So we are good here. Like I said, our tests are passing. Everything is good. There is one more thing, though, that I want to show you. And that's how we can use Buffalo plugin to listen to commands. So when we generated this plugin, one of the things that was generated was this listen function here. And if we look at our available, you can see that we are mounting it on our available. We are listening, mounting that function onto our available list of commands. Now, if we don't want to listen to events from Buffalo, obviously we can just get rid of that line there and they're gone. But we do. In fact, I want to go to our website here and go to gobuffalo.io, look at the known commands, and let's find the dev build command, and let's listen to that. So we'll say if e.kind does not equal the Buffalo dev command here, that things are finished, we're just going to return nil. So what that's saying is if it's not that particular event, which is the event that is thrown once a Buffalo application has been recompiled by Buffalo dev. If it is not that, ignore it, don't do anything else. But if it is, let's do something a little kind of silly here. We will create a new command, docker build dot, and we will rebuild our Docker image every time Buffalo rebuilds the app. Now, I'm not going to actually check this particular bit of code in because I don't think this is something we really want to do. However, it's fun to see it in action and see just how easy it is to do that. Okay, so I wrote that small little function. Let's install it. Let's go back to my app here, and I'm going to make sure to generate my Buffalo Docker stuff again. And I'm going to start up the app, and you can see, look at this. All of a sudden, Buffalo Docker is now running in the background, compiling my app because my application has changed, and it's now compiling that Docker. So like I said, I'm not going to check this in because that is a terribly wasteful thing to do. There are definitely benefits to it, but I'm not sure that it's useful to have. I just wanted to more demonstrate that it is a thing that works here. So I'm just going to actually let that finish here. You can see it's doing all its stuff. And I just want to show you that once I trigger a change in my code here, let's say I just even delete some comments, well, all of a sudden you can see that Docker, again, is running, building my application for me. So, with that said, that's how easy it is to set up events in a Buffalo plugin. Okay, so now, with all that said here, I've backed out that change. So we're not listening to, we're not rebuilding Docker every single time here. We're going to do an nice initial commit of everything here. I'm going to create this project on GitHub. Here we go, git push. There, on GitHub, I can now run make release 1.00 here. And that is going to go and compile everything for me and push it up to GitHub and create a new release for me. And if we go to GitHub, there we go. There is our Buffalo Docker plugin ready to go and create new Docker files for us. anywhere we want to. And by the way, if you're curious, see, here's that release file. The release that got generated by Go Releaser for us. And of course, like I said, if we go to our Homebrew tab, here, homebrew-tap, we should see our Buffalo Docker command in there, ready for installation as well. So there you go. That is a very quick tour of how to build plugins for Buffalo using the Buffalo plugins, how to quickly write generators for plugins, how to test them, as well as how to listen for events through plugins in a pretty easy fashion. So that's it. I'm really excited to see what you create. Oh, actually, before you do anything here, you can see there are some topics on my Buffalo plugins here, and I'm just going to go back to my Docker. Oops, wrong repo. That's why. Wrong page. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add some more topics. I'm going to add Go Buffalo. Oops, there we go. Go Buffalo, plugin, generator, and Docker. And the reason I'm going to add those is so that eventually, in a little while, maybe a few minutes, they will show up on the plugins page of toolkit.gobuffalo.io so that others can also find these plugins. So with that, I'm going to say that's it for now. Thank you very much, and I hope this helps. This video was brought to you by Gopher Guides. If you're an organization, conference, or user group that is looking for Go training, please visit gopherguides.com. All training is custom designed to match your educational needs.